Okay, welcome back to Fast Street Performance then, and my name is Tim Davies, and as you can see, we're back in the gym. We haven't used the gym before. I thought I'd bring you out here to get away from the office. Just a brief tour, weight stack and car. One of my wife's rare cars. I haven't actually crashed yet. MG Midget on the ramp there. If you want to become a man, get a car ramp, guys. Get a car ramp. I tell you what, press a button, it comes down. Press a button, it goes up. Love it, love it, love it. I want to go through some comments really and just address a few points from the last video I made concerning the Chief of Air Staff, so Mike Wigston and Rich Knighton, DCOM Cap, and sitting in front of the Defence Select Committee in front of Tobias Elwood and sort of struggling through what was a bit of a bad performance, I would say. Whatever you think about it, I think we'd expect better. And I want to concentrate on three things really. What you can do about it as individuals. I also want to talk about the red arrows. I think that's quite an important bit, and I just want to, as I said, cover the comments really in the video here and just to bring some up. I'm going to scroll randomly through them. First one though, I just want to address this. It says, really appreciate you sacrificing your own career in calling this out. 36 Squinsons. It wasn't a career I was in, guys. It was a job. Okay, I was in a job. My career was in the Air Force. Now I just go job to job to job. That's the way I do it. And I obviously run a business. I run a coaching. I call it the coaching cell. I run obviously Shadowlands. I'm heavily involved in that flight training aspect. But I was working with a company. I was installed to do something for someone involving a big defense project. And I can't really talk much about that because of elements of it and because of things I'm sure people understand. And the company I was working for, I was placed into a company, obviously did not like the fact that I was calling out the Royal Air Force. The Royal Air Force are one of their major customers. Why would they like it? And of course, you have to remember the people that would have made the decision to get rid of me would have been based in HR. And in HR, what do HR do really? I think they've got a sense of power, and I don't think they liked it. This guy says, I've been there, guy, it's called Adam. Well, you never know nowadays, do you? Let's pretend it's a guy, shall we? Just for old time's sake. Someone called Adam, might be a bloke, never mind. I've been in the Air Force for 16 years and never seen morale and people's attitudes toward the RAF so low. Very thankful for having you, Tim. Thanks, my man. I really appreciate that. I'm sure you are, man. And yeah, I really appreciate that I do. Let me just show you something quickly. I'm going to put up on the screen here from a man in the Navy. He just says, this is how the Navy deal with it. Royal Naval Air Station, Culdrose. 21 newly qualified naval airmen, men and women, shock horror, were handed their certificates on completion of their training at a parade, blah, 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 at Culdrose. I served at Culdrose for a long time. Remember, I joined the Navy, not the Air Force, straight out of university pretty much. I did a year in industry. And the reason I did that was because I was a Portsmouth-based guy. My father was in the Navy. I'd only ever heard good things of it. And the thing about the Navy as well, guys, I've always said about the Royal Air Force, haven't I? There seems to be a foundational instability or an ancestral instability about it because it is the youngest service, probably still trying to find place in the world. Whatever, understandable. Whereas the Navy has been there, isn't it? We're in Ireland and the Army and everything else. They seem to be a bit more grounded in these kind of things. People will throw things at me, and I can put pictures up here of the Navy saluting flags, LGBT flags, and all that nonsense. We all make mistakes. You probably find it's some idiot local commander that sanctioned that. Don't put LGBTQ flags on warships. It's a very good way of devaluing your physical presence and military might. I would say that. I'm going to scroll now. Just going to scroll these things and stop it. Scroll, stop. Okay, what's this say? So grateful for you on putting the entire section out on the Royal Air Force. Let's have a look. Trying to get in myself, etc., etc., etc. Really good dude. The people responsible should be absolutely relieved of duties they don't embody rise. Yeah, and that's actually Chief of Air Staff there. That's my worry. Now, let me talk about Mike Wigston just very quickly, because obviously I think a lot of you know I was on Mike's squadron, 12 squadron. The first squadron I was on in the Royal Air Force, out of flying training, and he was a really good boss. Shock horror, Mike was a great boss. But let me tell you something about Mike I noted, and I noted this as well, and I was going to chop it and put it in here, but I can't bother to go through 2.5 hours of the Defence Select Committee to get this one little bit of 5-second clip, but hunt away for it if you want. Mike, when he was a squadron boss, let's just say squadron bosses can be a little bit cavalier sometimes, and Mike was definitely a guy that would say, we're going to do this, make it happen, let's go. I just think that kind of can be reflected now in his Chief of Air Staff boss of the Royal Air Force sort of role. I think he's made an error. He said, I want to improve diversity, make it happen. And I can tell you why I think that's true. Because of course, as we know, Mike said, by 2040, I want 40% of women in the military, of the Royal Air Force, sorry, and I want 30% ethnic minorities in the Royal Air Force as well. So 40% women, the Royal Air Force should be 40% women, and it should be 30% ethnic minorities. Now, as I've said before, why? Why? 50% women in the UK, so why not 50%? And as I've said before as well, minorities are 13.7% at the moment, so why not 15%? Why go for 30? because the statistics are made up. And I do apologise for swearing in my last video, guys. People called me out for it. You're absolutely, I was angry, I was tired, I told you this before. No excuse at all. I was wrong to swear in that video. I don't swear normally, and I was just tired, and I feel like an idiot. Young people, we have to set an example, and adults shouldn't be swearing. What's that about? I haven't found any bad comments yet. I'm sure there's some there. I think the best of times of being a fighter pilot are gone, sadly. Tim, how would RAF look if you were there? Well, if you were the boss and had free range inventory hours of flying, etc., it's a difficult problem. It's what we call a wicked problem. You can never have free range, someone says. Kaz doesn't control the money. And when they were questioning Kaz about the E7, and why do you only have like 3 E7s and not 5? And Kaz took ages to answer. I would have said, well, you only give us so much cash. What do you want me to do with it? Give me more money, I'll buy more airplanes. It's pretty simple. But Kaz is that guy, unfortunately, who plays the game. Kaz went to Oriel College in Oxford. So Mike Wigston went to Oriel College in Oxford. And at Oxford and Cambridge, one of the things that happens is sometimes people come up to you and they say, nod, have you thought about a career, say, in the security service, MI5, MI6? Or they look at you, maybe think you're not right for one of those maybe, and they kind of go, well, what if you nudge yourself into the military? Maybe we can help you get to the top, and then we can do things. Remember, Chief of Air Staff was appointed by a man called Gavin Williamson. Very short time he was in the Defence Secretary, and Gavin wanted to put people in there that he could control. This is very important for the people in government. They want to control the Chief of Air Staff. You don't want someone like Stu Ather in as Chief of Air Staff who is pushing back at you and saying, no, I'll stop you there. That is fundamentally incorrect. The Royal Air Force is a powerful fighting force that does X, Y, Z. No, you want someone stuttering away like Mike Wigston did, looking completely inferior, looking completely out of depth in the Defence Select Committee. That's the kind of person that you think you can control, especially if you're Defence Secretary. I mean, it comes down from the top. What Mike is doing is sanctioned by the Cabinet Office. Number 10, civil servants. Don't think it's come down from someone like Liz Truss, or it's come down from someone like Rishi or someone like that. No, it's come down from the civil servants. The government's a figurehead. The rest of the country is run by civil servants. And in the UK, those civil servants tend to be very left-leaning, very socialist organised. It's just the way it is in the UK, all trade unions and everything else. It's just the way it is, all right? So it comes down from that. The thing about Kaz as well then, within the Defence Select Committee, there was one part, when I'm talking about him being a little bit cavalier, when I was on the squadron, we're going to do this, make it happen. Again, with the stats, I want 40% women, 30% minorities, make it happen. Just everyone gets that directive. Joe Lincoln gets that directive as HR head in the Air Force. Maria Byford gets that directive as her boss. They're going to make it happen. Emails go out. There's your mistake, writing it down, because then I find it and I call out on it. What happens then, of course, is people just do it. And it's a cavalier throwaway thing. You never realised someone like me was going to pick up on it, was going to go with the press and bring this, put him in front of the Defence Select Committee, did he? He didn't realise that. But the thing about it is, in front of that Defence Select Committee, if you look closely, there is one part of it, very briefly, where he talks about diversity and how important diversity is in the military. I say it isn't. I say that merit is important in the military, not diversity. I couldn't care less about what you think diversity is, by the way. So here's the thing. Diversity, what people think diversity is very, very different to what diversity was back in the 60s and 70s, what it was supposed to be. Diversity was about values and standards. Values and standards. If you had the values and standards of the organisation, then you like, that organisation, like I did, the organisation is amazing. I have the same values and standards as the Royal Air Force. I want to join the Royal Air Force. That's what diversity is supposed to be about. If you disagree with me, just have a think of this for 1 second, and I'm put in the comments as well, because it's well worth the discussion. I'll put it up in the next video. I'll seriously, I promise you I will. If you think that diversity is about skin colour, like we need people with different skin colour and different race, different genders or sexes in the military, then surely what you're saying to me now is that people who've got different skin colour to me think differently to me. So if you're telling me that a black man thinks differently to me, isn't that like a bit racist? So just be careful. Diversity, values and standards. Now I was a standards officer on the biggest squadron in the Royal Air Force, and that's what I'm saying. We put out the standards, we put out our values, people see them, people come and join. Nothing to do with race, nothing to do with gender, nothing to do with sex, nothing to do with your ethnicity. Spin it again, shall we? I've still got to speak about, oh yeah, anyway, so the Chief of Air Staff said, he actually said a bit about diversity. You know, my brain's going places right now because, you know, I'm not drinking at the moment. And one of the things he said was, it lit up when they talked about diversity. And he said something along the lines of, because it's really important we have diversity in the Air Force. You could see he was channeled into it. And I think that's because the Chief of Defence Staff and all the other chiefs in the services are ripping him apart by only having 2.5% minorities in his service. For some reason, people don't want to particularly join the Air Force. I don't know why. We've spun it. Well said, Tim. Yeah, okay, I don't want to read this bit of swear word in here. It's strange how the officer cohort preached integrity and moral courage, yet pushed this this rubbish, basically, is what the guy's saying. There's a point for you right now. I'm embarrassed a little bit that there's squadron leaders and wing commanders within the service who are not doing something about this. One thing I will say to people out there, all of us out there, all of us, is that if you're not part of the solution, you're part of the problem, all right? Okay, I don't have children. I have 0 children. Yeah, I'm willing to go and risk my career, lose money, that kind of stuff, put stuff on a YouTube channel. I don't expect you to do this, by the way, to help your kids not be indoctrinated by this nonsense at school. I'll do that for you. But all I'm asking is that sometimes you just challenge your boss or challenge your co-workers when they come up with this stuff. A person I know, to not get him in trouble, because I don't want to get people in trouble, get myself in trouble every day. Don't want to get people in trouble. They were at a meeting the other day. There was a diversity representative in there. One of the candidates for employment was a young black guy. And the diversity person said, if you hire this person, now there's 5 or 6 candidates, one of them was a young black guy. If you hire this person, it will be great for your diversity stats. That's what the person said. Now, that's not the embarrassing thing about it. That's not the embarrassing thing about it. The head of this recruitment board, she said, actually, no, that's a great idea. It would really help with our diversity stats. It took someone else, and it was a young person, to take that mature woman who was the head of that recruitment board to one side and say, you can't employ someone just because they've got a minority or because they're a female. You can't do it. You've got to employ them on merit. And then that woman, fair play, actually said, that's a very good point. I haven't fully considered that, and actually I need to go and do some thinking about this. You're right. It just takes sometimes a nudge. You haven't got to go out there and say, this is wrong, and throw things. You don't have to do it. But what you can do in the Air Force, for example, is you could approach your boss over a cup of tea, all right? Don't do it if it's Joe Lincoln. Don't do it if it's Maria Byford. Don't do it if it's Chief of Air Staff. I love the fact that you can't approach these people about discrimination. To me, it blows my fragile little mind. But anyway, just because they are obviously massive race grifters, aren't they? Remember, it comes out at number 10, comes out in the Ministry of Defence, and then it's executed by these people because they're just pawns in the system, right? And that's probably why Chief of Air Staff is where he is, because he can be controlled. So he's just been, and when I was on a squadron, I remember speaking to the chief in the bar, well, Mike at the time, obviously, when he was the boss of 12, and I said to him, and my wife did as well, like, how come you're on this rise? And he said, I don't know, someone's looking after me. I'm telling you, this is happening. Someone's looking after these people to get him in these positions so that now they're available to them, and now we can use them to enforce this policy, which is probably something to do with, I think, bringing down borders. I think if we can just break down national identity, I get a lot of stick, by the way, for having that Union flag behind me. It's not here. I've got other flags, but I get stick for having that flag. You think how much stick people get, or white van men get, for example, of flying the English flag in England, and how much stick they get for flying their own flag in England. It annoys the hell out of me, guys, and I'm a calm Mother Hubbard, as you know. You know what? You can't fly an English flag nowadays in England. You can't fly an English flag. I'm flying English flags every single where now. That's the thing. What's the matter? Are you embarrassed by your country? You shouldn't be embarrassed. If you're embarrassed by your country, you need to go live somewhere else. 110%. So obviously Mike has been placed there as Chief of Air Staff to enact some weird kind of policy where we're trying to bring down borders, probably to allow immigration to come in. If you think about the left, they want open border policies, World Economic Forum, that kind of stuff. We understand that, right? So we can have this free movement of people around the globe. That's going to allow us then, obviously, to allow a lot of people to come in, especially young people that are going to do the work the aging population, and we have a heavily aging population around the world, don't or can't want to do. And therefore, we're going to solve all the pension crisis and everything else, and governments are going to get back in again. Let's go for another bang, all right? Goes back a good few years. Cara Holtgreen was the F-14A pilot who died. She was brought in as a, say, diversity lead, wasn't she? And she was killed, unfortunately. First class Tim, nailed it. Thank God for intelligent and articulate common sense. I don't know whether that's people like me. I don't know if that's true, but thank you anyway. I appreciate it. It's, comments are good, yeah. Okay. What a disaster. I'm RAF ground crew. I love my ground crew, by the way. And he's saying, yeah, it's a bit embarrassing. Okay. Yeah, fair enough. Someone talking about lifting. Bad shoulder, road accident. That's the problem when I do a lot of coaching, guys. Some young people have asked me to coach them, and I like young people. I don't coach. Get into Shadowlands and just pay that $10 a month thing, and you'll get everything from me that you need at your stage in life if you are under the age of 25. What I would say though is I tend to coach people my age, okay? Late 30s onwards, okay? And that's a more expensive thing because there's a lot of my time that you're having. There's a lot of accountability coaching. Don't worry about that. Put the phone down. Why? The guy was just asking about it. Good stuff. Don't worry about as a white man myself, society is offering nothing to me. This is how people feel. This is your biggest cohort in the UK saying society doesn't. And I said this to my wife the other day. So what's going on? It's weird, isn't it? How do the Red Arrows then select their pilots? Okay, best of the best. Been through troubled times. I understand why they've been through troubled times. A lot of it is scapegoating. I don't want to go too much further than that. Let's just say the Reds have had a difficult time. They've been looked into. It's solved now. They're moving on. All right, you know how I feel about the Reds, but give the guys a break. All right. The Red Arrows, the top pilots in the Royal Air Force, all white men. All right, all white men. Now, how do they select? What happens is the boss, the team boss, wing commander now in fact, gets all these applications that come in, normally 10 to 15 a year, sometimes more, sometimes less, probably this year less to be fair because of what's happened. And what happens is the names are taken off the applications because everyone knows everyone in the Air Force. As in all the pilots know the pilots, they've all trained together. Or you can always phone a mate, hey mate, do you know Jim on 6? Yeah, so all the names are taken off, all right? All the names are taken off and I'll go through some memes for you from that. We'll end with the memes from the Chief of Air Staff's presence, shall we say, his presentation at the, we'll go through some memes. And so the names are taken off, sex is removed, and any kind of, if you could, anything that could identify the guy or the girl, anything, the pilot is taken off the applications. And then there's a bunch. And then they get the whole team sat there, hangers on as well, engineering staff, whatever, sat there. And then the boss stands up in front of all the squadron and it says, all the Red Arrows, and it says, okay guys, we're gonna have to fly with these dudes next year. You're gonna have to train them up, 3 years worth of flying with them. We want the really good people here, want the best people, okay? Everyone agreed? Agreed. Reads them out. He says, okay, this candidate or this pilot has 3 tours on Typhoon. He's got a training tour on, say, Hawk T2 at Valley. Known as a steady pair of hands, known as a really good guy, always run the bar, that kind of stuff. You know, maybe a family, just can't comment on that, can you? Maybe he's been Red Flag, Tactical Leadership Program, always helping out people, blah, blah. What do you reckon, guys? Yes or no? As a possible, there's a possible pile and there's a kind of not this year pile, maybe next year. Possible boss, I reckon, sounds like a pretty good dude. Put it in the possible pile. Now, you go through this with a few of them, but no one knows whether it's a girl or a boy. Yes, we can still say those words, can't we? Girl, boy, we can say an in-between, I don't even. So they go on the possible pile. Then gets whittled down again. All right, guys, we've got 5 people now. We've got to narrow it to 3. Got to narrow it to 3. Let's go through them again. Right, this person says a lot about helping other people. He's always on the squadron late. Yeah, I really think that's a pretty good person there, boss. Maybe just keep that one as a definite. Okay, cool. This one hasn't really shown, it says here, you know, might be better next year growing into role type thing. Okay, put that on the next year, but okay, put on the possibly next year. And that's how they do it. Skin color, not discussed, not even known. Gender, I'm a gender critical guy. Sex, should we say, not even known, not even known. What have they selected on them? What have the Red Arrows selected on? What? If it's not skin color and it's not sex, what do they select on? Merit. Merit, that's what they did. All they did is select on merit. Again, guys, if you're not part of the solution, you're part of the problem. Just try and nudge people if you can a little bit in your workplaces. Just kind of at the water cooler. Do we have those? I don't know, at the kettle. There we go, British, at the kettle. You make a cup of tea. You know, if someone says something like, oh yeah, do you hear we're getting an Asian guy in. It'd be really interesting, wouldn't it, for our diversity? Just challenge that shit a little bit. Oh, I swore, damn it. Oh, man. Sorry, I didn't mean to swear. I hate, you know. Sorry. So yeah, just challenge it a little bit. Push back on it. Let's take this country back, guys. I'm not doing that whole kind of like take the country back, but it's our country, right? You know, it's our country, isn't it? We're just decent people. We're completely, it's not just tolerance, we're accepting. You know how we are as a UK. Don't let people tell you're different. Don't let people tell you that you're a racist country. My brother-in-law said that the other night, over Christmas in fact. He said the UK is a racist country. Why did he say that? Because he had a black friend that someone had said something racist to him at school about 15 years ago. We're not a racist country. The end. The end. There are some racist people in the country. Of course there are. But it's the UK. It's the UK. We stopped slavery, for crying out loud. It took America another 30 years to stop slavery. They had a civil war over it. We stopped it. Going back in 1807, we stopped slavery, right? And if you do want reparation payments, I want them too, please. And I want them given to all those sailors who lost their lives stopping slavery. That's where we should be offering the reparations. Putting the phone away. Guys, thank you for your attention. I really appreciate it. Didn't have to listen to me. You did. I do appreciate it. Comments below. I'll talk about something else next time. I'll take you around the gym. I sort my shoulder out. Don't give your country away to these grifters, all right? We're not like that. We're better than that. Appreciate Tim Davies' fast performance.
Never made it out of Linton. I couldn't cut it as a fast jet driver. Now I'm treated as a taxi. I'm not a fan of doing bus runs either. but we all support someone, except perhaps the guy who kicks the door through every mission that I fly on. Feels like you think that I'm just here to serve you. This is how you remind me of what I really do. This is how you remind me. I think you should say sorry. I don't like you taking all the glory. The troops that we work for imply that we are just a transport platform. I'm offended, I'm writing, tell the chief that I've a right old sat on. These 5 words in my head scream, you're making me feel blunt, yeah, yeah.